Hey everyone, it's Jessie from b.a.r.e Flower Farm. If you're new to my channel, I typically focus on the business side of things in my YouTube videos, but I am a first-year flower farmer, and as we are winding down my first year of flower farming, I thought I would talk a little bit about what the farm looks like right now and what I am doing to prepare for year 2 of flower farming. So right now I am actually in my personal vegetable bed that will be converted in the spring to a ranunculus haven, we'll call it. In the past I would grow things like garlic over here. I mean, when I say in the past, I mean this year. So when I moved to this place, these Vigo beds were pre-ordered and they were put in basically within the first weekend that we got in, because I was overwintering garlic and I wanted to make sure that I had a place to overwinter. It was just a lot of effort to build my own planter boxes. At that time we hadn't broken ground on the field yet, so just wanted to make sure that we got something for our personal vegetable garden, and that's how these beds came to play. So these are Vigo beds. It's not a sponsored video or anything. I picked them because I just really liked the stuff that I saw online, and these I think will be perfect for ranunculus because it will allow me to more easily hoop and protect it. And I mean, it is a sizable space where I can grow a decent amount of ranunculus. So as you can see, it's definitely not clear. There's still a lot of tomatoes left. I think we'll still have a couple of weeks left before frost. I'm going to keep them in. I have some celosia growing here. I was growing these just to get some more pollinators in, but you can tell it's a bit of a jungle with the tomatoes, some chard and stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm basically clearing up certain areas to be able to be planted for my ranunculus, and then I'm going to pull this out later. But I already actually started growing ranunculus here, so you can see that I already have some sprouts, and these were only soaked for 4 hours on the 23rd of September. So that is about a little over 3 weeks ago, and we got torrential rain this past week to the point where I was really nervous that these were going to rot, and I'm just glad that they actually made it. So there are about 30 corms in here. I believe this is the p.a.r.e pink, and then there's another 30-ish scattered around this bed for the p.a.r.e brown, and you can see that these also seem to have made it. Or that one fell off, but yeah, that one's fine. Because I knew that it wasn't guaranteed that I was going to be able to sprout those corms successfully just with all the varying weather, I had a plan B. So I've only grown ranunculus once earlier this year in the spring. I felt like it was just not enough of a window for me to get the return that I spent on pre-sprouting, babying the ranunculus. So I wanted to try a succession to overwinter, and then I will plant some more over the spring. So of course my plan B was to pre-sprout the corms and put them into a tray to try to pre-sprout them in a more stable environment in my garage, and this is what I have. So ultimately the corms will go into this little planter cedar box that my husband and I built for our townhouse before. But this is a tray that I basically soaked and pre-sprouted a week and a day ago. And all you do is you soak them in a jar of water for a few hours. So these might have been over soaked by I think 6 hours. But anyway, you can see they were put into a potting soil, or not potting soil, this is a seed starting soil medium. And they already have these amazing roots. So because they have these roots, they're starting to create these shoots over here. What you want to do is, if you're doing this process, you want to keep them in a dark place. So I cover it with a cardboard box. But you'll see that the shoot is white over here. So it does eventually need light. It may not need light immediately, but the ones that were basically done outside where there is light once they come up above the soil, they are definitely a lot more green here. So if you keep them in the darkness, obviously you're not going to get the ability for them to photosynthesize, so the shoots are going to be a little bit more white and green. But this is usually my signal that it can go outside. We're going to have still good weather outside. I originally thought we were probably going to get a frost this Sunday, but the nighttime temperatures keep on inching back up. So I think we're in the clear for another 2 weeks, and I think that this is actually a good time for me to put them in. And once I do get some sign of frost, I'm going to start covering them with some agribon, and eventually agribon plus another layer of plastic to protect them for the winter. Oh my God, they're so many that have sprouted great roots like this. And so these are actually corms for the Aviv Ranunculus. So Aviv is a variety that is bred for cut flower farming. They have really good layers, but the corms are pretty decent size. So I bought these wholesale from ADR. I over ordered because I thought they might cut my order, and I've actually been selling some of these online, so I will put a link in the description if you are interested in purchasing. I'm only shipping them within the US, unfortunately, but you know, these are pretty decent size corms. So they're in the label it said at least 7 inches basically, or sorry, not inches, 7 centimeters. So there you go. So these are gonna go in here right now. All right, so here it is. And you can tell I've actually spaced them pretty close together. I've realized that ranunculus can actually be planted quite close to each other. So I am now in the flower field, and I wanted to give you a quick update on a lot of the things that I put into the ground about a month ago. So these were things that were started in July by my local grower friend, and they were all put in with the intention of overwintering for an early spring crop. So let's see how they've done. So this here is Foxglove, and I think it's gone bonkers. We got a lot of rain, as I mentioned before, and they have really put on growth. This is not the only patch of Foxglove. I actually have some over here that is hidden underneath some tomatoes that desperately needed to be harvested about 2 weeks ago, but like we've gotten so much rain that you can see that these tomatoes have cracked. So I do need to pull out these plants, but you can see the Foxglove have done really well. Now I joke the $1 million question is not about Foxglove for next year, it's about this damn stock. Will I get stock this year? This is stock that I put in back in April, and it got too hot for it to flower, but I was able to keep it alive. And it has definitely put on some growth in terms of foliage, but I would expect to see some stems come up now with some blooms, and it still hasn't, so we will see. So because I am a sucker for torture, I decided to start some more stock. This was intercropped back in August with my sunflowers that grew here. Now you can tell there's no more sunflowers left. There's a couple of remnants there, but the sunflowers turned over about a month ago, and so these stock are actually doing pretty well. I'm hoping I'll get something out of it. This is iron. The one that you saw before was column, but this row over here actually has some larkspur, so you can see that these are doing pretty well. These were actually soil blocked. And then we have some rudbeckia. This is ruby and gold rudbeckia. Then we have yarrow here. So some of this yarrow has really taken off. I have another patch down there that has also just gone bonkers. I might have spaced a little too closely, but let me show you over here. I have a little bit of lupine here. So, you know, originally I wanted to put this into my landscaping bed. It just never got done, but it's fine. I'll stay over here. Got a ton of feverfew. Look at this. This looks awesome. This has literally at least tripled in size, as well as the Sweet William. This is like a little jungle of Sweet William. Like, look at this. This plant is ridiculous. All of them have put on really good growth. I mean, it's to the point where I think I might need to, I don't know, potentially chop some of these a little bit so that there's not too much green to go into the winter. This is my Strawflower, but this is the yarrow patch that I was just telling you about. Like, this really took off, and I think a part of it is because the soil in here was amended. I actually buried some food scraps 2 months ago, and whatever this spot is, the yarrow really likes it. So there is some more Sweet William in this patch over here, so you can see relative to the rest of the flower field, this is where we are. But this is what I'm most excited about. Ignore the weeds. I will be weeding. But this is sea holly. This sea holly has done so well. They were relatively small. I mean, we're talking about like a couple of leaves. Look at this guy. This guy's gigantic. Pretty crazy. So I'm really happy with this. This row over here was a bit of a we'll call it dead space this year, because there was a bit of water that would settle in that corner, and then sometimes up to here if we got really torrential rain. So I didn't want to risk, and of course we had a drought, but I ended up amending this area a little bit with some more food waste, and then the mulch on here is actually a mix of just tree chips plus chicken poo. So I did plant some seedlings over here, so let me step on this side because the shadow is pretty bad. But this is verbescum, so it's grown pretty well. I will put a picture of verbescum because I had never heard of it till my friend introduced it to me. So I'm pretty excited for that. Now, this is the difference between putting something in immediately versus waiting a couple of weeks of putting it in. So, you know, they didn't die, but they also didn't thrive in their tiny cells. So you can see the size difference. And the other question is, will I get some Strawflower from here? This is Strawflower that I got from plugs from another friend back in, I want to say it was late July, early August. And so, you know, they're putting on good growth, but we'll see if they actually end up flowering for this year. So we've got one more row. I need to fix the netting here. I need another stake over there to really get it up a little bit higher. But what I want to show you is I have two things here. I have Snapdragons and I have Campanula, so Canterbury bells. This Campanula has also done really well. The stuff that has done well, I would say I put in a little bit earlier than the other stuff. That being said, the Foxglove before was one of the later things to go in. So, you know, it really is, I think, the rain, the cooler weather now. But this here is also Snapdragon that I put in September. So remember, these were started from seed in like mid-late July, and look at the height of this. I am stunned by how tall these are, and this was pinched. So imagine if it wasn't pinched, it might even be flowering soon. So it gives me a lot of hope. And one thing I do want to show you is I left a patch of some Potomac Snapdragons that I had from plugs back in April. They flowered, they did really badly in the summer, but I cut them down. I would say cut them down to kind of like this level. And then literally in the month of September, they started shooting up. So what I love about Snapdragons this time of year is there's fewer pests. I don't have thrips. So let's double check if I have a thrip in here. Sometimes I have a caterpillar, but like no thrips. And the stems are super thick. The heads are full. And this is, you know, what I would deem to be a florist quality type of snap. I was not getting this type of snap 3 months ago. I would say that, you know, even with the Potomac, which is supposed to do well in the summer months, really still need that cooler weather and that consistent rain, of course. So I'm pretty happy that I left these in. It was just too many of the apple blossom colors, so I took them out. But, you know, I've been using some of these for my bouquets. So that is more or less it from the stuff that I have in the ground. I have patches of many things just all around. I was basically putting them in areas where they were either already clear or something had just turned. So that's why, you know, it's not like all the feverfews in one spot. I was really just prioritizing trying to get them in and out of the cells. So I have about 1,000 plants from seedlings that are in the ground for spring. I'm done for spring. I'm not planting anymore as of right now. But I do want to show you before we head out my dahlia patch right now. So I have fallen in love with dahlias. I know I said in the past that I wasn't going to grow from seed, but there have been so many lovely surprises from the dahlias now that the weather has gotten better that I am completely rethinking that. In fact, I am even coming to the point where I'm thinking about taking a majority of this back area over here and just planting dahlias from seed and really squishing them all in, because I gave them a little too much space this year. When I look at how Floret spaces the spacing for the seedlings, I mean, they are cramming them in. So, you know, I think if I took this entire space over here, it might actually be a little too much, but you know, the goal is probably to do a few hundred. And, you know, I'll talk a little bit more about my plans for 2023, but dahlias will definitely be in. And let me show you a few of my favorite that grew from seed. So this guy is definitely one of my favorites. I will be saving the tubers from her. This one also very lovely. Which ones were also from seed? So actually this one over here is a seed from a dinner plate dahlia. So I was on Etsy and I was just very curious. I know that dahlia genetics are such that you're not going to get a dinner plate necessarily from a dinner plate seed, but she had marketed it as seed from a dinner plate dahlia. So it's like, let's see what it looks like. And, you know, I think you probably get the coloring of it, but this seedling clearly reverted back to the dominant genetics, which is big open center, which makes it easy to get pollinated, and really like single layer. So this is technically, you know, maybe a double layer, but typically the ones that grow from seed will revert back to those dominant traits. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Like this one is a perfect example of a very dominant traded dahlia. And the problem with these is that even though they're really pretty, they have no vase life. So I leave these here for the pollinators. I will not be saving this tuber. You know, another one is this one, right? But this one, surprisingly, I've cut it and it has a decent vase life of 4 days. And that is just putting it into hot water, no food or no flower food or anything. So you can see, you know, there's a bee on here. They love the open centers. So I keep them for the bees, but you know, there are some that are just really cool from seed. Like even this one, you know, this one is a little bit fading away right now. But, you know, you take a look at this one. I just find that a pop of something like this, even if it's small, looks really great in a bouquet. Let me see what else we have over here. This one, I think actually, I can't tell if this one's from seed or from a tuber. It does not look like any of the tubers that I received, but there are, there are a lot that are growing that do not look like the pictures. But in any case, the bee clearly loves this one. It's going to town on that one. This one is also beautiful. This one's from seed, so I'll be saving this one. But the ones that are not from seed, I'll show you. This is, so this is what happens when you don't stake. This is a Thomas Edison. They're giant. So we've got some more over here. This, I believe, is a terracotta. So it's a little funky looking, but cool. This is a b.a.r.e. So you can't really, this one's a little bit deformed, but like obviously very beautiful coloring. This is from seed. This is actually from Showtime seed. This is one of my favorites, absolute favorites. I think this is definitely a keeper. Just look at that coloring here. And this one I've started to grow a little bit more in love with. It's also from seed, but it was a very fire engine red before, and it's kind of mellowed out to a bit of a terracotta orange red. Some more Edisons that came from tubers. This one's also from seed. Unfortunately, this one does not have a great vase life, so that one's getting cut. These, I believe, are actually from tubers. I'm not sure what they are, but I also love this one too. I find that these small ones are really easy to work with in arrangements. So that's it from me today. It's a pretty short tour. We're in October right now. I feel like some of the flowers are finally hitting their stride, especially the dahlias. My asters are also hitting their stride. But in all, I am looking forward for the first frost to hit. You know, it will mean the end of dahlias, but it will also mean I get to focus on other things. And we do have family visiting for the next 2.5 weeks. So the priority for the last 2 weeks or month has been getting our home bathroom renovated. So we've been actually doing that ourselves. I've been trying to paint the guest bedroom. You know, when we bought this house, it wasn't necessarily a fixer-upper, but there were a lot of things outdated in our primary bedroom. The bathroom is, you know, the sink was leaking, the toilet was really old, so it wasn't very efficient with water. The shower, we don't even know a shower because everything else didn't really work, so we never used it, and we didn't want to share one bathroom with, you know, family for 2.5 weeks. So that was our focus, and when winter comes, I will actually be able to focus a little bit more on doing stuff inside the house, since the focus for spring and summer really was out over here. So I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. There's still some stuff we need to do, right? I need to cover some stuff, like the Snapdragons over there are definitely going to need some level of covering or protection during the winter. The Ranunculus are going to need some protection, but I still have a few weeks of time, because even though frost will hit, they will not kill all of them. You know, we're talking about a hard killing frost as the time for that kind of protection. So I will be keeping you updated as to what I do with that, what it's going to look like. But until then, I will see you next time.